Card Room Live, session 36. Happy New Year to everybody. First session of the new year. It's Sunday night. Tomorrow is Martin Luther King Day. So let's see who's up for talking about cards, who's up for talking about baseball, who's up for talking about YouTube, any and all of the above. This is the live stream without an agenda. It's the live stream where anything can happen, and usually nothing happens, except that we all throw in and have a good time and chat it up and talk about this hobby. So curious to see who's here. If it's your first time here, welcome. Make yourself known. Put your name in the comments in the chat, and give everybody else a chance to get to know you. There's been a lot of that over the past few sessions, which I think has been great. New members, maybe people that have been commenting and watching videos, but perhaps not super active. You're welcome if you're in that category. We even have had some folks mention that they are thinking about making channels. And in fact, there's been a couple people that have since made channels. So that's really cool. So let's see what's going on here. We got a few people already jumping in here. Orlando's here. Hello, Orlando. I'm glad because you're a huge part of the conversation tonight, Scott. So I'm glad that you're appropriately dressed. Hello, Rick and Terry. So we've got more than enough great people here to get a conversation started. Of course, like I just said, there's no agenda. So whatever you guys want to do is cool with me. I'll hold off on Scott's idea. Scott shared an idea for a potential topic for us to talk about, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold off on that one for a little bit just to see first if anybody has anything that they want to jump into, and also just to see how many more people are going to end up popping in tonight. So what's on everybody's mind? How's everybody feeling about 2023, about card collecting in 2023? I know there's been a lot of videos over the past month or so about hobby goals. How do you guys feel about hobby goals? Anybody in here have a strong opinion one way or the other? Anybody want to share what their hobby goals are? Yes, that's all. That's the other reason we're also holding out, Scott, in case anybody has better ideas than your idea. No, I really like your idea, and I think you got me thinking. I've got a lot of ideas about it. So we'll see what happens. Here's Derek, Hardball Crazy. But what about goals, guys? I'm not really a goals person. My goal is, I don't really look at my goals from like year to year. I have like a long-term goal. I've got goals in terms of what kinds of cards I want to get, but I don't necessarily kind of break it down into 12-month periods. I did feel like at the end of this year, at the end of last year, looking into this year, that I wanted to try to focus a little bit more on my pre-war collecting. It seemed to go to the wayside a little bit because, well, there's a number of factors. One, pre-war, at least the cards that I've been looking at over the past several years, can get pricey, and because of the crazy bump that we all experienced over COVID, pre-war, I was just really feeling priced out of it. Now, obviously, that's been getting better. Prices have been dropping, but not necessarily across the board. And so I found that kind of focusing more on my post-war collecting in the 50s, in particular, was a lot more reasonable for me, and that's been the case for a while. But like I said, I do feel like the prices are dropping. Over the weekend, I was looking at eBay and just feeling like, hey, some of these cards that felt like they were just kind of ridiculous are coming back to earth a little bit. And so that has me feeling like maybe I can look at pre-war again and not pass out. So we'll see if that works out. So that's my only real goal, is that I would like to try to get back into pre-war and see if that's possible. So let's see what you guys have been saying. So Scott says focus is important, but goals should be non-stressful. Yeah. I just had to fill out a bunch of goals for my job, and that's what I tend to think about when I think about goals. I think about work, which is appropriate for work, but not necessarily fun for a hobby. So yeah, focus is important, but goals should be non-stressful. I'd agree with that. Terry, I need them. Helps me build the collection I want and to keep focused. They don't need to be concrete. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I do have goals. I don't think of them as like 2023 goals. I just think of them as general hobby goals. And I am pretty organized about it, and I revisit it on a regular basis, but I don't find it to be stressful or work. It's actually part of the hobby. And like you're saying, Terry, they don't have to be concrete. I can change my mind. A lot of times I'll look at a card and I'll think, oh, I think I want this card in my collection, and I'll add it to my list. And then it might fall off that list in the future. And other cards that I hadn't really been thinking about suddenly appear and are added to my list. So it's always kind of changing. How you doing, Mark? I use let's see, I use goals to provide direction, right? Legends of the Dugout. Hello. How you doing, Doug? How you doing, Dave? How you doing, Alan? All sorts of great people in here. So for those of you that just joined, the question was, how do you feel about goals? Are you a goals oriented collector, at least in terms of like yearly goals, or not? And if you are, like, curious to hear what some of your goals are. So here's Rick. I like goals and did create a goal video, but I spent part of my afternoon looking at cards for the future that I didn't make goals for. So it's obvious that setting goals still has me looking at other cards. Right. Yeah. Yeah. We can make a list of what we want to do, but there's always other stuff to look at, right? So that will go off in so many different directions. More pre-war, less modern, especially wax rips. Okay. I didn't. Yeah, I mean, wax rips is definitely something that I don't really do that often, but it can be fun to do from now and again. Hey, Will, do you go to many card shows? No, I don't. There aren't a whole lot of card shows in my area. I'm in Georgia, and even when there are card shows in my region, they tend to not be really vintage heavy. I've been to all of one card show since I've lived in Savannah, and it was several hours away, and I drove to it, and it was, let's just put it this way, it was not worth the effort. So I have not had much good luck with card shows. The only card show that I've been to that was a good time was the National, and that's not surprising, right? Because that's the card show. But aside from that, there's not much going on in my neck of the woods. Hey, Chris, glad you can make it. Okay, Derek, also continuing the Negro League PC. Orlando says staying focused on your collection goals is key. True, because I mean it sounds kind of obvious, right? But it's so easy to lose your focus because there's so much great stuff out there, so many great ways to get distracted. How you doing, Paul? Here's Doug. My hobby goals are only to give me a rough parameter to make the hobby more fun. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I like that. It's got to be fun. Mark, my 2023 goal is to send quite a bit of my raw pre-war to SGC and to do a complete inventory and organization of my 50-year collection. Well, heck, that sounds incredible. That sounds like something I'd like to hear more about, Mark. I don't know if you have any ideas about making a channel, but man, I'd love to hear about that process and see what happens. A 50-year collection, some of which I don't know how much of that 50-year collection is pre-war, but that it's all raw and that it's going to be sent to SGC. That's pretty exciting. Paul, not sure I'm a yearly goal type. I have projects that are on the focus and I try to stick with that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's always cool. I think, like end of the year videos, I did one and I definitely enjoy watching other people's end of the year videos. I think they're fun because you can kind of just take a moment to reflect and see what happened over the year, and how your collection has evolved and so on. But so in that regard, I think it's cool. And I will stop and think like, okay, well, what are some big cards that I would like to try to get this year if I can, and I'm thinking about the long-term goal more than I am about the year. Will, one of my goals is to buy more from card shows and less from online sources to be more intentional about each purchase. Yeah, curious, Will, why that's your goal. I mean, I can guess why you would prefer to get more from card shows and less from online sources, but I'd like to hear what your thought process is about that, and also what you mean about being more intentional about each purchase. There's some great comments in here. I'm going to get to here in a second, but I'm going to put the StreamYard in here in case anybody wants to hop on and chat it up, and share your hobby goals or your thoughts about goals. The StreamYard link is in the chat. So if anybody feels like jumping on, you're welcome to. And again, if you're jumping on, there's no pressure to stay on for that long if you don't want to. If you just want to say hello and jump off in 5 minutes, that's totally fine. Sometimes people feel like they're obligated to stay the whole time and then they get stressed out. I'm not stressed out because I'm totally fine with the awkwardness of this live stream, if you haven't noticed that already. Let's see. David. Hello, David. How do you feel about collecting the T202 center panels only? Undervalued pre-war. I think I know what you're talking about. I'm going to look it up real quick just to make sure before I open my mouth. Right. Which have the sort of the T205s on either side. I've never really, to be honest with you, I've never really thought about the fact that those cards would have been separated, and that you could collect the center panel. I've never looked them up, to be honest. I'm aware of that set, and I've seen them, but I've never really looked them up. And I've never thought about the fact that they might be separated. That's interesting. I always thought that set was cool because of the sort of 3-paneled part of it, but that's an interesting idea. Chasing Majors, how you doing? Orlando, I agree with Mark. I'm organizing and only keeping the things I love. Hello, Matten. There's Don from Don's Field of Dreams. That's a lofty goal. Good luck with that one. It might be hard, Don. And here we go. It's the soap opera. Here's Corey. I went to a card show yesterday with definite goals, but I came home with a couple of nice vintage cards that were not on my list. I guess I need to be more disciplined. Yeah, I mean, I wonder if Corey, was it like you went in there with goals and you just didn't find the right example, or maybe you didn't even find what you were looking for, so you didn't want to leave empty-handed. I think that happens a lot. Um, or maybe it's just like I wasn't thinking about this card, but I can't turn this deal down. Or now that I'm seeing it in person, it's got my attention. I think that happens too. I mean, not that like I just said I don't go to card shows, right? But I remember being at the National, and when you're at the National, it's overwhelming, and you're just looking at so much stuff. I went in with a specific goal. I've only been to one National so far, but when I went to that one, I had a card in mind I wanted to get. Um, and I ended up getting it. But that doesn't mean I wasn't distracted by so much other stuff that I was looking at. What's up, Lou? Here's Carl. Hi, Alex and everyone. I have goals, but not necessarily a timeline. I'm about 60% complete on a 54 Bowman set. My goal is to get to 100%, but reminding myself that the point of the journey is not to arrive. Yeah, for sure. One of the scary things about finishing a set, especially if it's the only thing that you're building, is what the heck do I do once it's done? So enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride, Carl. Okay, there's the response we were hoping for. Maybe the two of you will get along for the rest of the live stream. We can hope. Will, relationships with dealers and save a little on taxes and shipping. Sure. My intentionality goal is something I've taken away from your videos, picking ones that have more meaning to me, or ones that I've been looking for a while, really study the card and have my reasons for liking it, less just accumulating. Yeah, well, hey, good for you, man. And if I had any hand in pushing you in that direction, I hope it works out for you. It's not for everybody, and there's nothing wrong with, like, I mean, everybody collects differently, right? And I definitely, I think we all can feel a little bit of FOMO when you see cards coming in. There's a lot of really great stuff out there, so it's hard to say no, right? It's hard to say, like, no, I don't actually want that card, when you kind of do. But there's some real gratification in, like, getting really choosy and saying, okay, I could pick up like 4 or 5 or 6 cards this month, or maybe I'm going to save up and try to be a little bit more strategic. And maybe there's this card that I've always wanted, and I've just been, kind of not putting it on my radar, and I'm going to put it on the radar. I'm actually doing this right now. There's a couple of cards that have been on my wish list for years. And every now and then I'll look at that list again, and I'll be like, you know what? Like, I'm tired of looking at that card and knowing how much I like it and how much I really want it in my collection. And it's time for me to, like, put 2 and 2 together and try to go for this card finally, and add it. And it's a long-term thing, right? I'm not trying to win a race or anything. It's a matter of, like, what makes the most sense for my collection in the long-term sense. And there's a lot of gratification for, like, resisting the temptation to buy other stuff and, holding off and finding the right copy and whatever. And then when you get that card, and it's a card that you absolutely love, and it belongs in your collection, and it's not going to go anywhere once you actually get it. It's one of those kinds of cards. It's a really gratifying feeling to finally pick it up. It's worth it. It's worth it in the end, I think. This thing about that you mentioned about having relationships with dealers, that's something that I definitely don't have. And I know that others in our community, maybe some of you guys in here, have relationships with dealers. That's so cool. I've never gotten to experience that. I mean, I've certainly had, like, I guess, sellers on eBay, but I don't think that's quite the same. It's cool to have like a person to person relationship with somebody and be able to like know them and talk to them at a card show and like build a reputation with them and a relationship. I think that's so cool. I can't speak to that because I've never really had that. Like I said, I've been to one national and like one regional show, and so I haven't really had a chance to do that. And like you're saying, like saving on taxes and shipping and all of that sort of thing. Um, Not to mention, I think another benefit of getting stuff in person is that you can actually see the card, right? Like, you're on eBay or whatever, you can see pictures and so, but like sometimes the pictures don't really tell the full story, or the picture quality sucks, or it's a little out of focus, or you're kind of nervous about buying it. But when you're standing there looking at it, you can spend as much time as you want really examining the card. And maybe if you're with somebody, they can look at it too. And you just feel a lot more comfortable making a purchase, especially if it's like a bigger card, um, as opposed to an eBay purchase, let's say. Doug loves both Scott and Don. Well, there's just a massive love fest in here. Here we go. I love you too, Doug. Perhaps more than I love Don. That love didn't last long. I love all of you guys, just FYI. Lou says the best time to buy is when you see it. I went in with a goal and ended up missing out on so many deals. Right. Yeah. Part of the tricky part of the hobby, and I think this is true not just of like card shows, but also like eBay, is like second guessing yourself. Like, well, maybe, I mean, one thing that I always tell myself to make myself feel better is that there's always going to be another card. Even if I miss an opportunity, there'll always be another one someday. But the reality is sometimes it's like, man, that was the card, and I'm not going to see that card again for like years. And so it's like really painful. Let's see. More love fest. I'm filled with love. I just told a random passerby at the grocery store that I love them. Hopefully that love doesn't minimize my love for all of you. No, I think it's fine, Doug. Like the level of love that you're disseminating will maintain itself overall. So don't worry. I can feel it. I think we can all feel it. Will, I'm a set builder, but maybe a little more quality over quantity this year. Look for cards that might be a little tougher, like 62 Topps Gibson or 55 Topps Snyder. Things aren't getting any cheaper. Well, I mean, are they not getting any cheaper? I kind of feel like they are. Like, not cheaper is not the right word. I mean, I remember, okay, so one of the things that I always think about with regards to pricing is, I built the 53 Bowman set over a period of like 3 years. And for those 3 years, I wasn't getting any other cards, but I was looking at other cards. And I was constantly thinking in the back of my mind, what else do I want to collect when I'm done with this set? And so I would look at other cards. I would look at pre-war, I'd look at Cobbs and Robinsons and Mantles from other sets, and I can painfully remember the prices that I was looking at compared to what they are now. And I was thinking like, oh yeah, well, I'm done with this set, I'll get those cards. And now like the prices are crazy, right? So they're definitely not cheap, but I do feel like a lot of cards are coming down from where they were during the craziness of the past few years. Relationships are cool because they remember you when they find something that you've been looking for, and they help you on price. Right. When I got my 53 Bowman mantle at the National, one of the benefits that I had in my corner was that I was friends with Brian B. Roth 6 and Max Jackson, who were helping me look for that card. And they both happened to know the seller who had the mantle that I wanted, and so I was able to work out a deal. And I'm not saying I wouldn't have been able to work out the deal without those guys, but I know it definitely helped that I had that relationship, and I kind of benefited from just being around those guys. Yeah, nothing like holding it before buying for sure. What's up, dude? Good to see you, Dylan. Dylan, don't be alarmed. Scott is just telling everybody that he loves them. You might also get some love from Doug. So just a heads up. How you doing, Josh? Good to see you. Jesse's here. How you doing, man? Put a pause on building my vintage sets due to price. Yeah, I mean, well, gosh, building sets when it comes to pricing right now is tough. I mean, I think the way to go is raw for the most part. I mean, obviously it depends on the year and the set, but yeah. I mean, I keep saying it. I was looking through my Bowman set the other day. I was like, there's no way I could do that now. At least not in that way. I don't really think about that, but when I get the cards out and I show them to somebody else, they're like, "Holy crap, those are like 5s and 6s and 7s." And at the time it was doable. I don't know that that's really doable for most people anymore. So I'm glad I did it when I did. Orlando, if you ever fall out of love with any of your 49 Leaf premiums, keep me in mind. Yeah. Love Fest 2023. Let's keep the love going, guys. Push out the jive and bring in the love. Yes, Max. You were there. You were there for my mantle purchase. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, walking around a show with somebody like Brian is an education. Yeah, right. There you go. That's the slogan for set building in 2023, I think. But if you're Dylan and you're not necessarily building a set, and me too. Like I'm not building a set right now, so I like mine covered as well. Okay, Chris, I've got goals. Make one of those goals to have fun collecting. It doesn't hurt to deviate from the other goals. Yeah, for sure. For sure. If you're not having fun, you're not doing something right. It should be fun. Somehow, I've managed to have fun all through these years, even during the dark years of the pandemic and the crazy horse shit of investor type channels telling us what we should and shouldn't do. I mean, we all survived that, right? So if you can manage to have fun when all that crap is happening, everything's going to be fine, I think. Pardon my French. 1954 to 87. Wow. 85% complete, down to high numbers and Hall of Famers for most sets. Yeah. And that's where the money gets dropped, right? So I hear what you're saying. If anyone falls out of love with their 1957 Topps Brooks Robinson, I'm there for you. Very opportunistic, Rick. I'm just going to jump in there, huh? Rick says, sorry, I don't love any of you guys, but I do love Brock Purdy. Okay. Well, hey, we appreciate we still love you, Rick, and we love your honesty. I think Scott loves you twice as much now because you don't love him. That's how Scott's methodology works. Troy, good evening to you. All right, so I've caught up with all the comments. Not one person has joined the live stream. I think it's because you guys like to hear me read the chat comments. I think that's what you guys enjoy about this. You just like to hear me read these comments. That's fine. I can do that. No problem. If you guys need money for the National, I'm looking for a 59 Gibson, a 55 Sandy, or a 68 bench. I'm looking to buy. There you go. Show Lou some love. There's so much love in here. Let's show Lou some love. Okay, Derek doesn't love Rick. I need to get like a scorecard here to keep track of the love and who's getting it and who's not, who's taking it back. It's getting complicated. Don only goes live once a week. I also only go live once a week. Sometimes I don't go live. So welcome to the club, Don. David. David's the only one in here that's actually trying to get a conversation going. So thank you, David. In your opinion, what's a set from the 70s that you think is undervalued or the most indicative of the decade? See, you're talking to the wrong guy. I'm aware of the 1970s. Great decade. Lots of cool stuff happened in the 70s. I know players from the 70s. I know there's some great looking cards from the 70s, but I'm not a 70s collector yet. I know I will be at some point in my future collecting, but I'm pretty much trapped in the 50s and pre-war. So somebody in the chat can throw in an idea about what you're talking about. Like Don's a 70s guy. Chris from Missouri, Terry, these are guys that can tell you for sure. But it's not me. Doug, are you usually live? Doug, I think it would be fascinating if you just had a perpetually live video on your channel. Like it's just always live, even if the room were empty, you just kind of like walk by once in a while. I'd watch that. So Chris says 1972. Terry says 75. Lou says 70. You don't love David trying to put direction to this. Yeah, this live stream never has direction. This is the show about nothing. Orlando is also trying to give us some direction. You got a 54 Red Heart Fox for $40 graded at the card show. That's great, man. Red Heart is a fantastic set. Oh boy, I see some trouble ahead. Rick says 72 set is a great one. 73 is my favorite, but 74 and 75 are underrated. I'm not going to look any of these up, by the way. I'm just going to read these. We don't look at 70s cards on this live stream, not yet. The way prices have risen, 70s are the new vintage. I mean, 70s cards are vintage cards, not just because they're old, because the 1970s happened a long time ago, guys, but also because the 70s was prior to the explosion of the 80s. But I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, for a long time, 70s were, I would venture to guess, far more affordable than previous decades, and that's perhaps no longer going to be the case. Don says 76 is his favorite. Many 70s are unique. 76 and 78 are some of my favorites. Stove Sports lives, guys. You didn't believe me, but he lives, and here he is in the flesh. Never doubt Stove, the power of the Stove. Stove loves all of you, even if he doesn't say he does. Mark, you missed it, but there's been a lot of love being exchanged in the live stream tonight, so I'm stepping in for you. Seeker card says 71 tops. 72 high numbers are killer. I'm keeping my favorite 70s card or 70s set a secret. I understand, Dylan. You don't want to give it away. The time will come. That would be amazing. Yeah, just live cam. And what would be cool, Doug, is like if like at different periods of the day you're a different character. Like not to give your thing away, but like maybe you're the sort of mobster guy, and then maybe you're not, and then I don't know. It could be really entertaining. I love 71 Topps iconic cards in the set and very different with the blackboard. Yeah, okay. I will say this. I think 71 Topps is the greatest. And the reason is because every time I look at 71 Topps, it reminds me of Atari cartridges. You guys know what I'm talking about? There's got to be people in here that are old enough. You guys are all fairly old, like me, to remember Atari cartridges, right? When I look at 71 Topps, I immediately think of Atari cartridges with that black border um, and the colorful font. It's Atari all the way. Which is like close because Atari was like late 70s, I guess. So it's within the range. See, Scott loves Mark. There you go. There's the proof. Do I like bobbleheads? Yes, I like vintage bobbleheads. I'm not really into modern bobbleheads, just like I'm not into modern cards. I like vintage bobbleheads. I've got like 3 vintage Phillies bobbleheads. Every now and then I'll go look at other bobbleheads from like the 60s and I'll be tempted to kind of start a bobblehead collection. The thing that keeps me from doing it is that they're pretty pricey. And every time I look at a bobblehead, I'm like, well, I could get that bobblehead or I could get a card, and the card wins that battle every day. But I think they're awesome. I like bobbleheads. I've never really gotten into the new ones. But yes, to answer your question. Uh, 71 is my favorite, but 75 feels like the decade, right? Bright colors that don't necessarily match. And the player's hairstyle and appearance reflect the fashion of the decade. 71 is still pretty conservative. Sure. Yeah, and 75, 1975. You guys have me talking about the 70s. You guys are messing with me now. Yeah, the colors that don't necessarily match. That's true. What about what year is that? There's another one that's very 70s. Trying to remember. 72. 72 to me feels very 70s. Yes. And now you will think about Atari cartridges now when you look at 71 Topps. Atari 2600 was the best, man. So some of you guys know I'm a teacher, and my obviously like kids today are like so into gaming to the point where like it's overwhelming. And we got a special guest here. I'm gonna let him in just a second, but I got to finish this story. So I've got students that are like really into games, and I'll tell them like, dude, you guys are into games. Try playing Atari. Like Atari is harder than anything you guys are playing because the graphics don't make any sense. And when you win a game in Atari, the game starts over. Like there's no celebrating. Like you don't achieve anything. It's almost like an error. The game starts over. Like that's challenging. So anything that my students are playing, like Atari, is way harder. All right, Lou.
What's up, brother?
Man, how are you?
I'm doing excellent. I was just watching the football game. I got some Superior Fit sleeves. I don't know about any of the other nerds, but when I get some Superior Fit sleeves, I'm sorting. And I just happened to sleeve this up.
Oh, there you go.
70s and the 71s. So you see, nice little Superior Fit. Love it. But
That's great.
my favorite one is obviously the Clemente back there.
For sure.
But I got some other 71s in my little Hall of Fame box. There's the Burt. There's so many iconic cards in this set. And that's his rookie right there. The Ted Simmons.
That's so nice. Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is with these cards, they're so tough to find in great shape. But when you find them, they're all stunning.
Yeah, because these all have like chipping issues, right, with the black.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You like this is a great card, but you see a little bit on the bottom here. You see,
Yeah.
Very hard to hide. That's why you gotta be very careful when you buy them raw, because you know you get so excited, you see them, you buy them, and then upon closer examination, you see that someone colored it in some kind of Sharpie or some kind of.
Right. Just
So
like Sharpie. Yeah.
So, but even this Phil Negro, and these were gifts from Aaron Davis. Shout out to my boy Aaron Davis. But even stunning card like this, great centering, is just hard because, you know, banged up corner and it just magnifies, you know? So that's why it's one of those sets where it's just beautiful.
Whoop.
But if your OCD is crazy, it's a set that could drive you crazy, you know? Because it's hard to find a perfect card in that 71 set.
Yeah, but if you like let go of that and just enjoy the card as is, it's not that big a deal, right?
Oh yeah. You know, there's certain people in our hobby, in our card community that are very OCD, you know, stuff has to look the same, centering. Like me, I'm pretty laid back. I want a nice looking card, but OC cards need love. You know, I don't mind OC cards. The thing that kills me, and every collector is different, but the thing that kills me the most are pinholes and writing.
For sure.
You know, that stuff kills me. I mean, I had a chance to get 54 Willie Mays. It was 8 up, but the pinhole crushed it for me. And unless it's like a Venezuelan issue, you know, something hard to get, extremely rare, that I can overlook it. But I mean, a pinhole and a base card or something like that, I just can't. I can't do it. It's tough.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely get OCD about certain cards and things, but I think it depends on the card too. Like if it's like some old card and this is the best example I can find, I'll put up with a pinhole if I have to, but if I can avoid it, I'll definitely like just wait to get it. But you collect like raw and graded, right?
Oh yeah, if I could get my hands on the card I want, then yes.
Yeah.
I prefer raw because that's how I grew up, you know. And on top of it, I could get more cards. That's it. Right. At the end of the day, I just want more cards for, you know, a PSA 7, you know, Munson, which will be $1,000 card. Or I could get a nice raw one, the best raw one I could find, and get 10 more cards. That's my mindset.
Right.
And if my kids, you know, once they get this, inherit the kingdom, if they want to go grade it, they can go grade it.
Sure.
I know I'm trying to read it,
John.
Yeah, but
what's your goal for the national? Do you have anything in mind? Are you going?
No, I'm aiming for Cleveland. I went last year, had the best time in my hobby life. But I talked to a lot of the fellas. My boy, AD, as the great philosopher once said, ODB, baby, I like it raw. But as far as the national this year is my daughter's quinceañera, big thing, and my family and my culture. So I have to stay home. She gave me the green light because her birthday is always going to be National Week. She's at the end of July.
Right.
But yeah, so it's unfortunate. But I'm not going to hit it this year. But
I mean, it's all good. There's always a national, right? So
always a national.
It'll come back around.
Yeah, I'll have like my homeboy James, or I have Orlando. I have my scouts at the National looking for, a 64 Topps Clemente, top stand Clemente because I have the base run. I'm really looking for the 68 bench, the Sandy to finish that Trinity because in the 55 you got the Trinity of rookies. You got the Killebrew. You got the Clemente. I don't have Sandy and I need Sandy.
Right.
And then the Gibby. The Gibby's beautifully ugly, if that makes sense. Such a
59. Yeah, I love that card. I don't know why, but like I love that one.
it works. Everyone goes crazy about these pink refractors nowadays. I'm like, the real pink card is the
That's
Gibby.
the real pink card. Totally. Man, I had an apartment a few years back that was like renovated from the 60s, and when I moved in, the bathroom was all pink tile, and I called it the Bob Gibson bathroom. Like that's every time I walked in there, like that's 59 Tops. It's the Gibson bathroom. Yeah.
And when you have guests go to that, they're like, "What the hell are you talking about? Who's Gibby?"
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's why I love this community. I could be weird, and when we went to the National last year, with the Misfits, it was like I've met James and John, but everyone else, it was like never losing a beat.
Right.
You say a corny joke and they all get it.
Right. Right.
So yeah, for those who haven't gone, it's just an experience you just gotta do. But yeah, that set when you talk about sets, 72 sticks out for me because it has a nice iconic script across the top of the
Yeah.
two, and then 75, with Brett and Robin Yount, those cars.
Right.
But yeah, with those crazy 70s colors on the 75, nothing seems to go together. I think that pretty much talks about the 70s. You think about shag carpet, that everything was green, like the carpet was lime green, people's cars were lime green, bathroom tile, kitchen tile, refrigerators were like either green or orange. It was very weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I grew up with parents that designed in the 70s, and so I had wood paneled, rooms and shag carpet and all that stuff. So that's definitely what I look at when I see those cards for sure.
Yeah, I had a buddy. His living room was sunk in. Remember that? I forgot the
Yeah.
terminology. I was like, man, this is the dopest thing ever. And it's essentially a hole in the floor. It's just a couch.
Right.
I'm like, what the hell is this? I haven't seen this in magazines. Avocado green,
Right.
baby. What we got in the chat? I'm missing it. I always do this. Love raw card. Oh, look at my boy Donnie live streams. But yeah, I just wanted to get on and help you out a little bit. I just thought it was funny that I was sorting and I just happened to have a couple of 71s near me. I mean, it's my Hall of Fame box. That
Oh, there you
was
go. Yeah.
putting sleeves on. See, I love these Superior Fit sleeves. Keep
For
them
sure.
so this one's not too badly centered. I bought this. See, buying raw, man. I mean, you buy this graded, probably a 6 in my opinion. But why do that when I could buy raw and get 3 more cards?
For sure. No, it makes sense.
Yeah, my Brett, I wouldn't mind a little upgrade, but I don't do too much upgrading because once I have it, I have it. But the corner on this one is a little beat up. But I mean, centered wise, from afar, the color is beautiful. Talk about 70s colors. Look at this color. Like,
Somehow it works, even though it's like completely bonkers. Like,
the rose is in pink. You
yeah.
got the green and the purple. I love it, man. Here's a Dennis Eckersley, another 70s. I love 70s, man. A lot of great stuff. A lot of good Hall of Famers and stars in the 70s. So, but yeah, man, just want to give you a shout out, help you out. Haven't been on your channel yet, so
Anytime, man. Anytime.
I, I did have Scott's shirt on. I think it was on James' live stream. I rock that shirt every day, Scotty. Every day is my favorite shirt.
That
I
guy
won't.
definitely needs some endorsements.
I wouldn't mind it if you send it to me for free. I'll shout you out. All right, my man. But I gotta put Bob to sleep.
All right, cool, man. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Peace. For sure. No, that's not going to happen. I love the 70s. There's a lot of great stuff in there. But that's why I'm staying away from it, because I've got enough projects started as it is. Cool to see Lou. All right, so here's the topic that was proposed, and it was proposed by the Love Man himself, Reindeer Studios. And I'm going to go back to my text that I got earlier today. Scott said, topic idea: how to enjoy your collection without buying more cards. I'm going to throw this up on the screen here. How to enjoy your collection without buying more cards. That's the topic, and you guys can feel free to throw your ideas in the chat. I'll throw the live stream in here. If anybody wants to quickly hop on the StreamYard and share it on camera, or if you'd rather just put it in the comments. So I think the idea is, maybe you're taking a hiatus from buying. Maybe it's like self-imposed for whatever reason. Maybe it's like a financial reason. Maybe something's going on in your life where you're not able to buy cards for a while. I know I just went through that recently, getting a house. Or maybe you just want to take a break from the hobby. Maybe you kind of feel like I'm spinning my wheels and I'm just acquiring stuff to acquire stuff, and I want to kind of stop for a while and reassess what I'm doing, whatever the reason might be. So the point is, you find yourself in a situation where you're not getting anything new. How do you go through that period and find enjoyment through your cards? Because you can say that, right? Like people have been saying that ever since I've been in the hobby. I've said it, like, oh, you should enjoy what you have. You can say that. It's easy to say that, but like, how do you actually do that? Like, are there things that you can actually do where that's what's going to happen? Because I think it's easy to say, but I think a lot of people also kind of get in a place where it's more fun to get stuff than it is to just sit with the stuff that you've already got and find that as enjoyable. So I've been talking for a little while. Let's see what you all say. So John says there are lots of ways. Well, you're going to have to prove that, John. You're going to have to prove it. I'm just messing with you. Terry. Oh, okay. So sorry, this is between you guys. Oh, so wait, so he's coming in here. Like, you're the one with the question.
Hey,
you're not supposed to have the answer.
Oh, okay.
Well, do you have the answer? I want to hear it.
I don't. Like for me, I could just, if I can't afford to buy anything right now, I could just make some art And I know
You can make baseball cards, Scott.
right. But like, I like what you do is you take a deep dive and do like one card. Like, I guess us YouTubers could like pick our 10 favorite cards and like really dig into those and make like a video for each of those. I think that's a neat idea.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first started my channel, one of the channels that I really appreciated was Ray from Philly, because when Ray does, not all the time, but very often when Ray does a video, it tends to be one card, and it's like a card that he just got. And a lot of people don't do that. Like usually a pickup video will be, maybe stuff that you got over several months, or maybe you just got a bunch of stuff at the same time. But a lot of times when Ray will do a pickup video, it's like, okay, I got this one card, and he's always extremely excited about that card, and he'll talk about it. And I just liked that that's what his approach was. And I kind of lifted that from him. Because I do think there's something nice about saying, like, I'm just going to talk about this one card.
Mhm.
But yeah, I agree. Like coming up with different ways to make videos, and finding weird combinations. I mean, Terry does that all the time, right? Finding interesting different ways to like look at cards that you already have.
Absolutely.
So what else? I mean, what else were you thinking about with like cards that you already have, and like trying to find ways to enjoy them?
Like everybody's talking about making displays or different kinds of displays. My wife recently gave me the stairwell, and I've shared pictures of that with you. And I've
Oh
been
yeah.
like working on the stairwell. That's been kind of fun. And obviously, spreadsheets and databases are never complete,
Right.
right? But sometimes that leads to buying more stuff. Like I'll look for a
True.
spreadsheet. I'm like, I don't have a Giovanni Urshela rookie, so onto eBay, But
Right. I was at an antique mall recently, and I overheard a conversation between a few people, and they were talking about being collectors. They weren't card collectors, but they were just talking about, collecting antiques, I guess. And they're talking about the problems that come with it. Like, I've run out of space. I don't have any more room for whatever they collect. And um, one of them said, the fun is in the shopping for what you collect. Once you have it, the fun is over.
yeah, those endorphins kick in.
I was like, oh, that's so depressing. But I totally get it, and they're kind of
Mhm.
right. Like it's fun to get it, and then when you have it, it's like you almost forget that happened. Um,
But like last year, didn't you buy like it was? You didn't buy a whole lot of cards last year, right? It was
no,
like 12,
no.
20 cards, something like that.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was, yeah, something like 20, I think, maybe even less than that.
And then when you do that, like those cards are all the more special, I think.
For sure. I mean, part of that was just because I got the house, so there was like a period of like 4 or 5 months where it wasn't even on my mind. I was actively not looking at eBay. I was watching YouTube, but I was not looking at eBay,
Mhm.
because it's like, why am I going to look at this just to torture myself? Like, I'm not getting anything. Um, but I guess the plus side of that torturous experience was like, I don't have that feeling like I need to be getting stuff.
Mhm.
And I will say that, like, I think YouTube can create that vibe sometimes, like when you have a channel and you want to make videos, like you want to have stuff to make, and like getting cards is a huge part of it. I know there are channels that, like, they're not going to make videos unless they're getting cards. And so if you fall out of the hobby for a while, it also means you fall off of YouTube sometimes.
Mhm.
And so there's like a lot of pressure to like keep up with your channel and make videos and stuff. I don't know. So there's like a lot of factors to consider.
I was thinking about that too. Like, how many of us would be willing to not buy any cards for a year to get like that 52 mantle? Or I guess for me, it would
Mhm.
be like a 49 leaf Satchel Page.
Right. Do you have it in you, Scott?
I I think I could do it,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to try that yet.
Right. By the way, I have to acknowledge the tux. It's fantastic. I wish everybody that joined the live stream went to such lengths. Yeah, I was actually thinking about this like the past few weeks that there are a couple of like big cards that have been on my list forever and like they've kind of come back to earth somewhat, at least to a level that like is reasonable, whereas they were like astronomical like in the past couple of years. And so it's
Mhm.
like, well, now that they're back within striking distance, I want to go for it because I missed it the first time around. And these are cards that I was looking at like way back when I was building the Bowman set, and so it's like, okay, I'm gonna make good on that, and it might mean that I'm not gonna get anything for a while. But on the other end of that will be this card that I've always wanted. So it's got to be worth it.
I would think so.
Um, all right, let's see. I want to see some of these comments. Let's see. Lou Rock, YouTube is the best way of creating content, rummaging through your collection, doing video responses, and telling your stories. It's how you enjoy your collection, right? People want to know.
No,
No,
no.
you got
I
away
don't.
with it though. Nobody
I
would have
didn't.
noticed.
I couldn't find one.
Terry, I don't have the type of collection that you sort. I enjoy reading about players and the history of the sports and how the cards fit in. I'm as much a fan of the history as of the sports as the cards. Yeah, I'm the same way, Terry.
Mhm.
Scott, like, are you how much time do you? I don't know what your schedule's like. If are you reading, like sports books, or is that even something that you're interested in? Or
I am. I usually have two that I'm reading at a time. I have a carpool for my kid that I have to go pick him up, and usually there's a lot of waiting involved. So I have right now I'm reading the Chalmers race, which is about like I think it was 1909. Lajoie and Cobb were like going head
oh,
to head for the batting title, so they could try to win a car, and
awesome.
that was it's kind of a neat book. And
And that goes right along with your Lajoie card. So
right. hmm
perfect.
And then at home, I usually have a book by my chair that I read just when I have a minute. It's like
Right.
um,
Right.
that. Right now, I'm reading an Al Rosen biography. It's
Okay.
not as good, but
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they can be hit or miss for sure. But I mean, I agree. Like, to me, books are such a huge part of it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a book. I mean, sometimes it's just like, I'm going to go on Wikipedia really quick and get like a cursory look at this player or whatever. And that might be satisfying enough. And then if you're really interested, then you can go deeper if you want to. But I mean, that can like really lift your appreciation of the card, um, for sure.
and then Don was saying he has a lot of history in Pittsburgh. Like you can go to the Clemente Museum.
Right.
Um, I like League Park in Cleveland. That's really fun.
For
But yeah,
sure.
not just books. You can go to museums and things like that.
Right. I found the infrastructure of collecting takes as much energy as the cards, the boxes, the supplies, the display cases, the shelves. It's a hobby in and of itself. Yeah, for sure. I've been spending a lot of time recently working on this area back here, this display case. It's constantly changing. I don't. I have just enough cards to fill it, but I'm about to get to the point where I'm going to be able to rotate out what I'm displaying in there. But I'm always reconsidering the layout and how I display stuff in there, and the supplies like John's talking about here, and all of that kind of stuff. And that's fun too. It's like, if you display stuff, it's like take the time to be happy with your display And for those of you that have more cards than I do, which is pretty much everybody in here, you can, pick and choose like what it is that you want to look at, and like come up with different combinations of cards that tell a story for your collection. Let's see. What else is going on in here?
Another idea I had was TTMing is actually cheaper than buying cards. Like
Right.
there's guys like Bobby Shantz and Carl Erskine or Vern Long. They have like great baseball stories and they're great signers. And they're not like superstars, but you still get that endorphin rush when those cards come back.
Yeah, and that's so personal too. It's like,
Mhm.
this little opportunity to connect with them on a one-to-one basis is so much more meaningful. Like I like getting autographs, but I don't think I have like any of these autographed baseballs. I haven't met them in person. I've got them authenticated by somebody. But I didn't like have anybody hand me the baseball after having signed it. And, even if it's through the mail, that's still really cool. Like there's a connection to that player that makes, much more of an impact than just a purchase, I think. So
Right.
that's cool. These are all really good ideas. I'm trying to think of, I had a couple other thoughts written down here. I'm trying to go through. You really got me thinking about this. And I was like, this could be like an entire video. Yeah, I think it was really more just about like thinking about what it is that you're trying. And this goes back to like hobby goals and stuff, but like thinking about what it is that you actually want your collection to be in the end.
Mhm.
Um, and if that means waiting a little bit longer to get a card that really means something to you, then sticking with that goal. And when you're there in the long term, it makes all the difference. I mean, the last card that I feel like took that much effort was probably my Hank Aaron rookie. And well, that's not true. The Lou Gehrig Wheaties was kind of a weird thing because I wanted that one for a long time. And so much of it is opportunistic, right? Like you just have to jump on it when it comes up.
Mhm.
But once you see the opportunity and it's the right timing, you strike. But you have to be ready for that, and that means like, okay, I'm going to withhold from getting other stuff for a while to make sure that I'm in a good position to do this. And then it's like, you know, it's okay that you didn't get all that other stuff, because quite honestly, a lot of that other stuff you probably would forget that you even had. Um,
They go on a
so
5-row box and you forget about it.
yeah, right, exactly. Um, so is there anything that you're kind of, and you don't necessarily have to tell us like the specifics, but are there any like cards or goals that you've got like that you're kind of thinking about this towards, like that got you thinking about this idea of like not getting stuff?
No, I think it was just the the water heater I had to replace.
Right,
So that
right.
cuts into my card budget, and it was more about that than going
Right.
after something big. But
Okay. Well, I mean, that's just as relevant. I mean,
mhm.
my the other thing is like your card budget can fluctuate and change. Sometimes it's like a big thing like a water heater, and sometimes it's like, you know, um well, okay, so to get really personal, when I was building the Bowman set, I was single for the most part.
Right.
So I had a lot of extra cash that suddenly went away when I finished that set. But it was interesting how that coincided. So, and that's a good thing. But like,
It is.
but but then you have to reprioritize stuff. You know, what it's like life stuff and like getting a house and all that kind of stuff. Like changes the buying habits that you have, and you have to kind of factor that in. But that's why I think it's also important to be like, okay, do I really want this card? Do I really care about this card, or am I just getting stuff to get stuff? And I feel like that's the trap to avoid. So, Scott, what's on your radar for this year?
So when I went to the national last year, I was looking for the 49 Bowman Satchel Paige, the T206 Lajoie portrait that I bought, and the T206 Cy Young, the Milkman one.
Okay, yep.
So I figured I was going to buy one of those cards. And it's kind of nice to have 3 to look for. So you pick, the nicest one. You don't, and if you don't find one of the other ones, it's not like you go home disappointed.
Right.
So I still have those other 2 on my list. So those would be one of those would be like the biggest card that I would buy this year.
Okay.
But I'm really just going to continue to work on my Cleveland team sets.
Yeah, and so that's another good thing, is to have like different projects that you can kind of pivot to. I mean, for me, like 50s Yankees, Dodgers, and Giants is like there's always reasonable stuff that I can get in that area that's like not gonna break the bank or anything. Right. Yeah, I mean it's weird, Doug, to your point. It's weird how being on YouTube with your collecting habits can suddenly everything you're doing is like, oh, other people are aware of it. But I think we all understand that, life can take weird turns. So it's all good. How are your I'm sure you are excited to talk about this, Scott. How are your commissions going?
All right, I have one more to finish for the Grail Quest. I've hit kind of a snag with my workspace setup for that, but
Oh, right.
so that one is, I'll finish that one, and Grail Quest is over, and then I have like regular commissions, and there's a nice list there. So it's nice to have work to do.
For sure. Yeah, so you've got this like huge. It seemed to me like you have this big workspace. Are you like transitioning to that, or?
Yeah. So my studio that I've been using for YouTube is actually just like a little corner of the bar in my basement, and
Yeah.
it's not very big at all. But I have a workshop, and I haven't been using it. It's like for woodworking and stuff. So I'm like kind of putting all the woodworking tools to one side, and
Right.
I'm going to transition to a bigger studio space in there.
Nice. And I imagine it's going to be easier for you to shoot as well.
I think so. I get better shots in there.
Right. And are you going, like, I can't, I don't know if you already said this. Are you going to the National? Is that confirmed? Or
Mhm.
it is? Okay, awesome. I saw his workspace. I was shocked it was on his bar. Right.
Yeah, it's not very big.
Right. Chicago is so much fun. I'm still not 100% about whether or not I'll be able to go, but I hope so. And Chicago is definitely the best. Um, Such a great space and such a good time for it. Um,
But Cleveland, we got a party at my house.
well, that's true. Fair enough. That's true. Um, it definitely beats AC. So we will see. Yes, that is AKA Don from Don's Field of Dreams.
All right, I'm gonna take off because I gotta get this tuxedo jacket off. It's getting warm in here.
Thanks for hopping on, man.
Yeah, good time.
Oh, you just missed them. You just missed them. The good thing is you can watch it when it's recorded. Yeah, I think I missed a handful of ideas that you guys had while I was talking with Scott, but I mean, it seemed like everybody was sort of on the same page. It's like appreciate what you have, buying, finding ways to enjoy what you have, and reading books. If you don't have time to read books, if you don't have the patience to read books, it could be Wikipedia or just YouTube. Sometimes you can find stuff about players and games and history and so on. Documentaries, of course, there's the Ken Burns documentary, which is always fun to revisit. But I mean, there's so much more out there besides the Ken Burns documentary. There's so many good books, so many little corners of the history of the game that you can go down and learn about certain players. And I like doing that. I actually I mean, it sounds like Scott does that too when he's talking about the Lajoie book and the card that he just got last year. It's fun. It's fun to pair the book with a card. Like when I got the Koufax rookie, I got the Jane Levy book on Sandy Koufax, a lefty's legacy, and that was a great book. And when I think about that card, I think about the book that I read when I got the card and all the stuff that I learned about Koufax, and it just really enhances it. So it's not just another acquisition. Um, it's kind of a memory. And that's a good idea too, John. It's like there's so much that we ignore on the cards themselves because when you get the card, you're thinking about the importance of the card, or you're thinking about, whatever relevance that card has to your collection. Maybe you're finishing a set or whatever, and you're worried about the condition of the card and blah, 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 blah. But like, how many of us actually sit and like look at the card beyond the obvious collector stuff, like read the back of the card? That's definitely a lot of fun. Terry, I think YouTube is a double-edged sword. You can enjoy your cards by making content, but it is tempting to want to buy more when you see collections. For sure, for sure. When I first started my channel, I was looking at a lot of cards and settled on the Bowman set. But once I discovered that there was a YouTube community and I started following other channels, my knowledge of vintage skyrocketed and went really fast because there's just so many channels out there and knowledgeable collectors that are collecting every niche of the hobby. And so you're exposed to so many different types of cards and sets and so on so quickly, way more intensely than if I was just doing it on my own, like looking through books or whatever. So that had a huge influence on me. And if you're not careful, you could get overwhelmed with it. But for me, at least, although I am definitely influenced, like I'm sure I could look through my collection and I could say like, oh yeah, I remember that I saw that card on so and so's channel, or I remember the first time I saw this card was on so and so's channel. I feel like I'm still able to kind of look at collecting through my perspective and make my own choices, and not be too drawn to make purchases that I wouldn't have otherwise made, if that makes any sense. Take a trip to Michael's and get some new displays. John, that's such a good idea. And people think of Michael's as like a craft store, and of course it is, but like I think when people think of stores like Michael's, they think of like, okay, that's where I get like pipe cleaners and like seasonal decorations and stuff like that. But you can also find a lot of great supplies at Michael's, believe it or not. They've got displays, but they've also got opportunities where you can turn stuff into displays. I've got some wooden like mini boxes that are in that display that allow me to raise up some of the cards in that display, and I got those from Michael's. Don't worry, Scott. We know. Sell some old things that you don't want and start saving up for that card that you do want. We all have junk that people will buy. Yeah, that's a good point. Every now and then, I think it's a good idea to like double check what you've got in your collection and ask yourself, do I still want this? Or can I move it to get something that that matters more to me or that means more to me? Yeah, Hobby Lobby, same thing. Same thing. Hobby Lobby also has a lot of not supplies, but display opportunities. There you go. Yeah, shadow boxes. Chris, taper glue them in books like the old days. Yeah. It might actually be fun. Like if you weren't like gonna have a heart attack about the value of the card and you're just doing it for fun, then it might actually be a fun little activity to just kind of like do a throwback of how people used to collect. Yeah, I mean REA auction books are so fun, right? There's a smell to those books, and I don't know if any of you guys have like talked about that before on YouTube, but there's a smell to those REA books, and like whenever I smell that, it's like, oh, it smells like vintage baseball cards. And flipping through that, you can get ideas, for sure. Use your stapler, right? Yeah, all good ideas. One thing that I like to do every now and then, I'm actually doing it right now, is to see how other people set up their display in their if they have a card room or just an area in their house where they display their collection. Obviously, YouTube, all of us know about like man cave videos and stuff like that. But if you go on Net54 and like do a search for card room or memorabilia room or man cave, you'll find threads going back 10 plus years, and people will post pictures of their rooms, and it's really cool to see not just to see the different rooms, but to see the different ways that people collect and what they collect. It could be pre-war, it could be team centric. Maybe it's a Yankees fan or whatever, and you just get to see like how different people use the space that they've got. And it's crazy. Like some of them are like really kind of spare and like modest, and then some of them look like a freaking flea market. Like you can't even see the wall because, or the floor because they're just, it's just like covered in all the stuff that they've collected, and every one of them has their own unique feel, and it kind of says something about the person, and it's cool. You can kind of just like see how different people set up their space, but also like you get to see so much stuff too. It's like, oh my gosh, there's this cool Babe Ruth item that I didn't know existed, or whoever, Mathewson, and it's just really inspiring to see all those different setups. You need to go to the library. Yeah, for sure. Or you could go to John Mangini's house. That's a good idea. Oh wow. Okay, so there's like another room at John's house that has cards. Okay, cool. If anybody in here hasn't already, and you have a space in your house somewhere, no matter how big or small it is, you should consider doing a video, because those are really fun to watch, and I bet you'll get a lot of views from other members of the community, just because we're curious. It's fun to, it's one thing to see, a card or two or whatever. It's a whole other thing to get to see the space, or a display case or whatever it is that you've got, because it gets people talking, and it's, for some of it's the closest we can get to like coming over to your place and hanging out, which is always fun. I mean, you know, Don is talking about hanging out at John's place. I mean, it's really fun to get to hang out with another YouTuber in your house, in your card room. I've had Andy over here a few times, and it's nostalgic about baseball. It's just it's really cool to get to like hang out in the space and like look through cards. And it's one thing to see some of these cards on YouTube. It's a whole other thing to get to like sit there and look at them in person. Right. Yeah, and like some of us, like Lou's already got one. I haven't done one. I haven't done one for this room yet. So I'll get around to doing that sometime soon. But I have an old one from my old place from like a couple years ago. Yeah, for sure. And like Terry, I've seen pictures of your space. I don't think I've seen it like, or maybe I have. I can't remember. But I know I've definitely seen like images of like your cases and stuff. And yeah, you get some insight into how that person does their thing, right? And you've done 2 videos on my sorry, man. I'll have to go back and refresh my memory. I think I'm thinking of like the pictures that you sent me when we did that video. That's where my mind is. But I'll have to go back and check that out. Hey Scott, do you want to come over to my house to see my cards? I have a page that I don't think I've ever shown you. Heck yeah, Don. This is like a conversation between Don and Scott when they were like 12 years old, right here. Maybe you guys can do a sleepover, Yes, you did. So my head is stuck in that video that we did, but I'm gonna go back to your channel right now, and find your man cave video. Terry, do you happen to remember what you called the video? Dude, that's news. Are you moving to Savannah? If you are, you're welcome down here, man. But it sounds like you're getting yourself a card room, which is great. Good for you, buddy. Oh, I think I found my sports card and memorabilia room. Oh yeah, yeah. I've watched this. I guess I forgot because I still see them as the photos that you sent me. But I definitely watched this. So I will watch it again. Okay, heading south, just not that far. Well, hey, I mean, heading south is the right direction, man. Thank you. Yep, I found it. But if anybody else wants to check out Terry's room, you should go to his channel and look for that video. I need to get a wall card display. No cards on walls, just signed photos, lithographs, jersey. It says, etc. Yeah, Orlando, I am thinking about doing that too. I obviously have a lot of cards back here, but I would like to get a wall display for at least some of my cards. Like my Bowman cards, I don't display. I have a few of my Bowman cards displayed, and I'll kind of rotate them out. But I would like to display more of them, as well as other cards eventually when I run out of space in that case. So I think I'll do a wall display at some point too. And I still have some spots in here where I could put it. Kind of limited wall space in here, but I can make it work. Dude, you're so late. You're so late. I mean, I know you're in LA, but it's all good. There's Carlos. I need to get someone less lazy to sort and display my cards, right? You need an intern, Carlos. You need an intern. Yeah, dude, it's nice to have a place where you've got all your stuff set up the way you want it, and can kind of enjoy the space. Here's Mike, this baseball card life. 1949 baseball film I'd never heard of via text today. It's called The Kid from Cleveland. The movie has real Major League Baseball stars in it, like Hank Greenberg, Bob Feller, etc. I feel like I have heard of this movie, but I've never seen it. Or maybe I've seen like the trailer for it. Mike. So I'm going to look this up. Yeah, 1949. The synopsis is well, here, let me read you a more in-depth synopsis. Well, that's a little too in-depth. Let's see. Here we go. Teen baseball fan Johnny Barrows sneaks into the baseball stadium of the Cleveland Indians. So Scott's ears just perked up. Who were then playing in the 1948 World Series. Claiming to be an orphan, he befriends team members and broadcaster Mike Jackson. But it turns out that Johnny has a troubled home life with his mother and stepfather and is involved in juvenile crime. His better side shows only when he runs away to visit the team again. Can Mike and the Indians, who are playing themselves, get Johnny away from bad influences? And so apparently this movie features Bill Veeck, Lou Boudreau, Tris Speaker, Hank Greenberg, Bob Feller, Satchel Paige, Bob Lemon. Sounds like a winner. I'll have to check that out. Thanks, Mike. Literally just woke up. Okay, it's awesome. It's a bad movie, but it's neat to see all the Cleveland players, right? Yeah, I'm so glad that Mikey has that up on his wall again. That to me, that's like like when I think of Mikey, I think of his card space in his old house, which had that wall display. So I know, he just moved, so it's nice to see that display is back up. Means everything is right with the world again. All right. All right, guys, it's been about an hour and a half. So we're going to end with this, which is that Mike is teasing that he built something next to his card display. And apparently we're going to see it soon. So stand by for that. Thanks, guys. I hope everybody has a great end to your weekend. Happy MLK Day coming up. And we'll do this again soon. Hope you all have a great Sunday night. Peace out.